Okay, let's start with something we've all felt. You ever tried booking a train ticket on a site like IRCTC? It's just a lot. Or maybe you're trying to buy a new laptop, and you're just staring at this wall of options, and they all have slightly different specs. You're literally faced with a maze of alternatives. So the real question is, how on earth does your brain cut through all that noise to land on a single decision? Well, that's the big mystery we're going to try and solve today. All right, so let's pull back the curtain on this whole thing. It turns out, and this is what's so fascinating, your mind has this surprisingly structured method for sifting through all those alternatives. And the craziest part? You're usually not even aware it's happening. So here's the first big piece of the puzzle. You don't actually look at a product, say a laptop, and just think, yep, I like that one. No way. Your brain is way smarter. It breaks it down. It sees that laptop as a bundle of benefits, basically. A collection of different parts that you size up one by one. Okay, so what are these components? Think of it like your brain has this secret evaluation toolkit, and right now we're going to open it up and unpack the 4 secret tools it uses for pretty much every single choice you make. First up, you've got product attributes. These are just the specific features of a product. You know, the concrete things you actually care about. Like if you're buying a car, you're not just buying a car, right? You're buying its styling, its fuel efficiency, how much it costs to maintain, the price, all that stuff. And what's absolutely crucial here is that these attributes, they're always determined by your personal needs. Second, your brain uses what's called a utility function. Now, that sounds super technical, but really, it's just a fancy way of saying you decide how much satisfaction you get from each of those attributes. And that satisfaction can be functional, like saving money, but it can also be emotional. For example, great fuel economy doesn't just save you cash at the pump, it might also give you that warm, fuzzy feeling of being environmentally conscious.
Okay, third tool, importance weights. Because let's be real, not all those features are equally important to you, are they? A middle-class car buyer might put a huge weight on something like fuel economy, but a high-income buyer, they might care way more about styling. So you're constantly and subconsciously ranking what matters most to you.
And finally, the last tool in the kit is brand beliefs. And this one is all about perception. It's about what you think is true, which might not even match reality. For instance, you might believe that a Maruti Swift has amazing style, even if, on paper, a competing brand objectively scores higher on that very attribute. But in your mind, your perception becomes the reality of the choice.
All right, so your brain has its toolkit ready to go. But wait, how does it handle the sheer number of brands out there? I mean, it can't possibly analyze every single one at once. So what does it do? It uses a mental filter. Think of it like a funnel, right? At the very top, you have the total set. That's literally every brand that exists in the market. Whoa. But you immediately narrow that down to your awareness set, just the brands you've actually heard of. From there, you filter it again to the consideration set. These are the ones that meet your basic criteria. And finally, you get down to the choice set, the last 2 or 3 options you're seriously deciding between.
Okay, so we've filtered down to our final few brands, the final contenders. Now what? Well, the last clue to this entire mystery is understanding the secret mental shortcuts, psychologists call them heuristics, that we all use to make the final call. And here it is, the big reveal. We are not perfect, rational, calculating machines trying to find the absolute #1 mathematically perfect option. Nope. Most of the time, we're what experts call satisficers. We're not trying to maximize our choice. We're just trying to find an option that is, well, good enough. And to find that good enough option, our brains fall back on some really simple rules. For instance, you might use what's called the lexicographic rule. That's where you just pick the brand that's the best on the single most important thing to you. That's it. Or you might use a compensatory rule. This is where a brand's strengths in one area are allowed to make up for or compensate for its weaknesses somewhere else.
Let's actually see these rules in action. Take a look at this table for 3 different refrigerator brands. You can see the attributes, styling, economy, and maintenance cost. You see the importance weights we've assigned, and you see how each brand scores. Now pay close attention here. Low maintenance cost is clearly the most important attribute, weighted at a whopping 45%.
Okay, so what happens if your brain uses that first rule, the lexicographic one? Remember, you only look at the most important attribute. In this case, that's low maintenance cost. So looking at the chart, brand A scores the highest with a 5. You literally ignore everything else and boom, brand A is your choice. Dead simple.
But what if your brain decides to use the compensatory rule instead? Now you got to calculate a total weighted score for each brand. And look what happens. All of a sudden, brand C, the one that was actually the weakest on maintenance, comes out on top with a score of 46.0. Why? Because its strengths in styling and economy completely made up for that one big weakness.
And this right here is the really mind-blowing part. It's the core takeaway. The same person with the exact same information and the exact same preferences can end up choosing two totally different products. The only thing that changed was the subconscious mental rule their brain decided to use at that moment. Wild, isn't it?
So why does any of this matter in the real world? Well, because marketers know all about these mental shortcuts. They know how your brain works, and they actively and very cleverly design their strategies to nudge you one way or another by tapping directly into these decision rules.
So how do they do it? They give your brain the easy shortcuts it's looking for. For example, a product signal, like really shiny packaging, can act as a mental shortcut for quality. Or they rely on market beliefs, like the idea that a giant store must have a better selection. We also use the price heuristic all the time. If it's more expensive, it must be better, right? And of course, the ultimate shortcut of them all, the brand name. Just pick the familiar name, and you don't have to think about it at all.
And that leaves us with one final big question. Now you know. You're aware of the secret toolkit, the mental filter, and the hidden rules your brain uses to make a choice. You even know how marketers are trying to nudge you. So, the next time you find yourself standing in that maze of choice, now that you know the rules of the game,